I don't know if this shit is even worth the time anymore. Alright, so full disclosure, I have been making a dedicated effort to watch every single episode of Monday Night Raw from 2008 because I wanted to relive my first year as a wrestling fan through the show that introduced me to wrestling. And I wanted to review Monday Night Raw in the year overall in the year 2008 once I was finished. And after this episode, I was left feeling with an all too familiar sense of futility, the likes of which I would experience if I actually did continue to watch episodes of Monday Night Raw today in the year 2021 with how bad the content is these days. The Raw after WrestleMania isn't exactly considered to be a big show by WWE, at least not as far as branding goes. It's typically more so an event among the diehard fans that can't let go of this shit, and WWE just decided to never run with it. And no, NXT call-ups don't count as them running with it. I enjoyed two matches on the show. The first being Jericho versus Punk in a completely random match that I didn't mind being as random as it was. Both Jericho and Punk were more than capable of pulling off a completely random match with no build and making it turn out to be something decent, so no real complaints there. The second match that I was mildly entertained by was Orton versus Matt Hardy, and I really have nothing to say about that match apart from it being very dull. And yes, a dull match in the show is one that I considered enjoyable, because the rest of the show was so horrendous that a dull match was a complete breath of fresh air. The rest of the card was made up of matches like Holly and Rhodes versus London and Kendrick in a match that not a single soul on earth wanted or asked for. Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch versus Crime Time, which was a match that opened the show and did absolutely nothing to save my patience. And the worst of all, Santino Marella versus Maria Kanellis, in what was likely the blow-off to their feud, which pretty much ended with Santino telling her that she belongs in the kitchen, to a rousing ovation from the crowd, because even they had enough common sense to know that Maria wasn't shit after she just got done posing for Playboy and Frenching Snoop Dogg of all people at WrestleMania. And yes, WWE really thought that a big WrestleMania moment for her character was her swapping spit with Snoop on live pay-per-view. Snoop Dogg. The match between them ended as soon as it started when the entire Divas division came out and did a painfully shitty job of jumping Santino to a crowd of people that were just trying to justify the money that they spent on a ticket to this shit show in the first place. The Great Khali and the Big Show had a face-off to chants of "You can't wrestle" from the crowd, and then the show ended with the Ric Flair Farewell celebration which thankfully for the crowd finally gave them a good reason to justify spending what I'm sure was a fucking ill amount of money on an episode of Raw that was, up until that point, unbearably abysmal. This episode was so shitty that I don't even think that the farewell address was even worth watching it for. Avoid this Raw after WrestleMania episode like the fucking plague unless 2+ hours of mind-numbingly shit television is your thing. It ain't worth it.